Justin Fields versus Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson versus Justin Fields. Who's the guy? Who's the number one guy? Mike Tomlin looks like he has other plans. Who's the best guy for your fantasy football roster? Who's the best guy for your fantasy football wide receivers? We're going to get into it right here on this episode of Spiking the Pigskin. What's up, everybody? Tony Cutillo back here again, as always, your host for Spiking the Pigskin, brought to you by WinDailySports.com. And as always, make sure you get over there, you sign up. Code word is HEAT, H-E-A-T. You get 50% off all our prop models, all our optimizers, all the betting picks, all the content. Trust me when I say you will not find more content for a better price around. And speaking of better price, it looks like Mike Tomlin is thinking of a different price point for his offense. Now it all comes out that Russ is healed. He's taking the first offense reps in practice. And now all the questioning going to Justin Fields, Mike Tomlin. What is he thinking? Is he really going to go back to Russell Wilson? And it sure seems like he is going to do that. Because if you listen to his news conference when he was asked a specific question on why he wants to go to Russ, here's what he said. And I think it's very, very insightful with a couple good points we're going to get into when we come back.
Justin has been really good, and we've been really good at times, but not to be confused with great. Man, this is a competitive league, man. We're trying to position ourselves to be that team. And we got a player with talent who hadn't had an opportunity to play, so we're going to potentially explore those things. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what Justin has done or has not done. Justin has been an asset to us, man. Last week, for example, man, his ability to utilize his legs by design and by ad-lib was a significant component of that game. He rushed for 50-plus yards and 2 touchdowns in game. And so we're appreciative of that. We're appreciative of how he's taking care of the ball. But we're just looking at all the people at our disposal the same way that we do at any position. We acquired, Terrell Edmonds a number of weeks back, who we have a history with. And as soon as we got him up to speed and got comfortable, we started considering ways to utilize his talents. That's what you do in this thing. You better have your foot on the gas at all times. You better look to divide the labor up in the most appropriate way based on who's available to you and healthy, and that's just simply what we're going to do.
Can I just say how much I wish Mike Tomlin was my head coach? He's my favorite coach ever. He really is. He's the GOAT, in my opinion. I continue to love Mike Tomlin. And you heard the best statement in that entire sequence of 1 minute and 11 seconds where he said, good, not confused with great. And you have to be competitive and always thinking ahead in this league. That's why he's so good. Listen, Justin Fields has been serviceable. He has not been great. 5 touchdowns in 6 games. I understand he only threw the ball to one opposing player for an INT, but it doesn't matter, okay? If he started the rest of the 11 games, okay, you're talking about he would throw at this rate less than 15 touchdowns. Russell Wilson last year threw 26 touchdowns in a Denver offense that was stalled most of the time, okay? So he's looking at this, Mike Tomlin saying, look, there's a reason why my kicker, Chris Boswell, has the second most points in all of football for kickers, because our offense stalls. There's a reason why my number one talented wide receiver in George Pickens is crying for the ball, and he has a low 30% catch to target ratio. It's why he's open on film study. It's because Justin Fields is not seeing him. Now, listen, I love Justin Fields. I think he is what he is. But everybody's getting asphyxiated with this offense that is not the offense that Mike Tomlin likes to run, okay? He doesn't want a quarterback to rush for 5 touchdowns and 230 yards. He wants to throw the ball and run with his running backs and his offensive line. And Arthur Smith, who I may not like, still is a pretty good offensive play caller, and he's been able to, basically dumb down the offense a little bit, to make it more serviceable for Justin and his skill set. But I think he has a lot in his repertoire when we talk about going a lot deeper into the game with guys like George Pickens. And I think that's where Russell Wilson comes in and cooks. Listen, man, I'm not saying that, this is going to be 100% slam dunk. But what I'm saying is you have to think about your team in general and how you're stacked up against the opposition. And to be honest with you, yes, they are 4-2. Yes, they are playing extremely well. But again, good, not confused with great. And that's what we're looking at. And that's what Mike Tomlin's looking at, okay? He's looking at a guy who has been, listen, he's been good, but he has dropped off last 2 games under 58% completion rate, okay? Under most 145, 131. Listen, man, that's very pedestrian numbers, okay? Against Dallas. Listen, the Dallas Cowboys couldn't stop anybody, and he only managed 131 yards against them, okay? Only completed 15 passes. So you have to look at this. Russ would have easily doubled those numbers, okay? So I think this he owes it not only to the team, but he actually owes it to Russ. This is a coach's coach, okay? He brought Russell Wilson in here to be the guy, okay? And you know as well as I do, the coaches that are stand-up coaches, that are players coaches, will never allow you to lose your job because of injury, especially the quarterback position. We've seen this play out many a times. Now, when you look from a fantasy perspective, this cannot mean anything but elite status for George Pickens. Yes, I said elite, okay? Because when I was doing my off-season projections and I was talking about wide receivers, I was extremely fond of George Pickens. I had George Pickens as a top 12 wide receiver, maybe even top 10, and that was based on Russell Wilson. I mean, listen, there's no secret here. All you had to do was look at Courtland Sutton last year. All you have to do is look at Tyler Lockett. All you have to do is look at Doug Baldwin. He made Doug Baldwin into a perennial Pro Bowler. This is what Russell Wilson does. Whether you like him or not, he elevates the status of his wide receivers. And right now, George Pickens is the 47th ranked fantasy wide receiver. 47th. That's ridiculous. Okay? Absolutely ridiculous. He has 44 targets and only has caught 26. 363 yards and 0 touchdowns this year. 0 touchdowns. He's only broken the 7+ receiving mark in a game one time and 100 yards one time. Last year, he had 7 games of over 100 yards receiving. And he's only got there once so far. Listen, there's a reason why they're making this switch. And I'm going to tell you right now that this is going to elevate George Pickens to that next level. If I were you and you're looking at a fantasy team right now that, is in dire straits, okay, and is sitting there with George Pickens, go buy low on George Pickens. Very, very simple. And to be honest with you, go buy low on everybody in this offense. Jaylen Warren, a guy that hasn't been utilized a lot. They will use him even more now in this offense. Remember, Justin Fields had 5 rushing touchdowns. Russell Wilson is not going to have 5 rushing touchdowns. So now Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren are going to be recipients of those 5 rushing touchdowns. This is really a leg up on your competition in fantasy if you do this smart. If you're one of the owners that kept George Pickens and said, I know George Pickens is going to come through. I know either Russ is going to start to cook one day or Justin's going to get better. You, my friend, have gotten you a golden ticket. So, in closing, I will say this. I agree with Mike Tomlin. I stand with Mike Tomlin. I think Russ deserves a chance to go out there and perform. And if he doesn't perform, guess what? Mike Tomlin's not going to leave him in there. This is not going to be a Deshaun Watson experiment. This is going to be, look, if Russ, you can't cook in 2 to 3 games, then we're going to go back to Justin. And there could be times, too, where Justin is put into this offense, kind of like a Taysom Hill. Let's not forget about that. Justin Fields could be put in this offense like Slash from back in the day and Cordell Stewart. Okay, he could honestly do some good. And you know what that's going to also do? That's going to give you even more opportunities for George Pickens because it's another weapon in an offense that desperately needs another option for the opposing defense to try and cover. So, again, Tony Cutillo, spiking the pigskin. Make sure you're following us at WinDailySports.com. Use that code word HEAT, HEAT. Get your 50% off. And we'll catch you back here next time to see who the next guy is that's spiking the pigskin for you.